Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, or The Evening Redness in the West. This is more than just a Western. This is a hallucinatory, brutal odyssey across a lawless landscape where civilization crumbles, morality dissolves, and the American frontier is laid bare as a stage for blood-soaked chaos. Equal parts historical fiction, nihilistic meditation, and apocalyptic vision, Blood Meridian is considered by many to be McCarthy's magnum opus, his true masterpiece. Now, that being said, he has written many fantastic books. I Love the Road, for example. This one is certainly his most horrifying. Today, let's explore the themes and the characters and the writing style in Blood Meridian to see why this is such an important work. The plot is deceptively simple. A teenage runaway, known only as the Kid, wanders across the American Southwest and Mexico in the 1840s, eventually falling in with a gang of scalp hunters led by the chilling and unforgettable Judge Holden. But that simplicity gives way to a mythic, chaotic, and often surreal journey that drags the reader deeper and deeper into a world ruled by violence and metaphysical terror. So I'll go into the details of the plot a little bit. The novel opens with the birth of the Kid in Tennessee in 1833. Violent from a young age and largely rootless, he drifts westward, surviving by his fists and a sense of aimless hunger. After some time in Texas, he ends up imprisoned in Mexico. He is soon released into the company of Captain Glanton, a leader of mercenaries, contracted to hunt down Apache tribes, paid by the scalp. The Glanton gang begins a campaign of unrestrained violence. What begins as a state-sanctioned genocide of indigenous people rapidly spirals into indiscriminate slaughter. They kill Apaches, but also peaceful Mexicans, villagers, and even their allies, all in pursuit of money, chaos, and power. Towns are burned, innocents are massacred, and the gang becomes a force of destruction, feared and despised across the borderlands. And at the center of all this horror stands Judge Holden, towering, hairless, charismatic, terrifyingly articulate, and nearly inhuman in his abilities and presence. The judge is not only the gang's philosopher and chronicler, but also its most dangerous and violent member. He delivers disturbing monologues about war being the ultimate truth, and the only true order in the universe. The Kid nodded. An enormous man dressed in an oilcloth slicker had entered the tent and removed his hat. He was bald as a stone, and he had no trace of beard, and he had no brows to his eyes nor lashes to them. He was close on to 7 feet in height, and he stood smoking a cigar even in this nomadic house of God, and he seemed to have removed his hat only to chase the rain from it, but now he put it on again. The Reverend had stopped his sermon altogether. There was no sound in the tent. All watched the man. He adjusted the hat and then pushed his way forward as far as a crateboard pulpit where the Reverend stood, and there he turned to address the Reverend's congregation. His face was serene and strangely childlike. His hands were small. He held them out. As the Glanton gang slowly implodes under the weight of its own destruction, members are killed, disappear, or they go mad. The Kid, though brutal himself, shows glimpses of conscience. He occasionally spares lives, refuses to fully submit to the judge's worldview, and becomes increasingly haunted by the things he's seen. Now, I'll go into the ending of the book a little later on, but I will say right now that it is a very deliberately ambiguous ending that will leave a large impression on you. It is nightmarish, horrible, and very provocative. At the heart of Blood Meridian is a single chilling idea. Violence is not just a part of history, it is history. McCarthy doesn't just depict brutality, he uses it to question the very foundations of Western civilization, manifest destiny, and the American myth of progress. There is a theme of war being almost like a godlike force. Judge Holden argues that war is the ultimate expression of human will, that it is in fact divine. His famous line, "War is God," is not metaphorical but literal to him. He believes in no morality but power, no truth but domination. In this horrific worldview, peace is simply a lull between battles, and human history is written in blood. It's terrifying and compelling. Unlike many of the more romanticized visions of the American West, this one is more apocalyptic. This does not glorify the frontier, but McCarthy presents the West as a stage of annihilation. The landscape is surreal, it is mythic, and often described in biblical or apocalyptic terms. There's dust storms, scorched deserts, and ancient ruins that turn the book into a kind of American book of Revelation. This is not the land of opportunity, it is a killing field. There is the sense of the fragility of the conscience as well. The kid in this story is no hero. He is violent and complicit in many horrors, but he also carries a faint flicker of moral resistance. This faint resistance to the judge's philosophy is not triumphant because it is crushed. Yet McCarthy seems to suggest that even the smallest spark of conscience matters, if only to illuminate how dark the world really is. There is a striking style of language in this story. McCarthy's prose in Blood Meridian is, I would say, legendary. It is biblical in cadence, devoid of quotation marks, and saturated with archaic poetic vocabulary. The violence is described with such poetic precision that it becomes surreal, awful, yet hypnotic. His landscapes are written like a curse and a prayer at once. Sentences stretch like sermons, descriptions linger like ancient myths, and horror becomes lyrical. It's important that we discuss the judge, a creature so strange, so intelligent, and so morally void that he defies categorization. He is equal parts philosopher, killer, trickster, and possibly even supernatural. There are clues throughout the novel that he may not be fully human. He never seems to age. He knows every language, every scientific discipline, every art. He seems to be present at every massacre, untouched by harm. The judge's speeches are terrifying, not because they're mad, but because they're so meticulously reasoned. He doesn't argue for chaos, he argues for a new order, one in which violence and domination are not evils but virtues. His charm is suffocating, his intellect dazzling, and his evil total. Now, there are many arguments to what or who Judge Holden really is. He may be the devil, or he may be humanity stripped of illusion. The novel ends not with resolution, but with annihilation. The kid grows up, he tries to live quietly, but he is haunted. When he meets the judge one final time, it's like meeting fate. The judge claims he never sleeps. He says that he will never die. It's not just about the man, it's about the idea. Violence as eternal recurrence. In the final pages, a man is seen digging holes in the earth, possibly for fence posts, possibly graves, and another watches, unable to understand. It is one final symbol, a man digging into a barren land, searching for meaning or dominion, perhaps unwittingly preparing his own burial. Now, if the book to you already sounds like quite a grueling and difficult read, it is. It is because it is a challenging read. It is not for everybody, and it certainly is not an easy book. It's often repellent, it's dense, unrelenting, and merciless, but it's also one of the most ambitious and philosophically loaded novels of the 20th century. It tears down myths, rewrites the Western, and stares unblinking into the abyss of human nature. McCarthy dares to suggest that evil is not an aberration, it is the engine of history, and that beneath our civilized surfaces we may all dance to the judge's eternal tune.